Hey everybody, it's Mr. N here. We are going to do this next lesson on equilateral and isosceles triangles. Remember, we have our definition here for an isosceles triangle, and we said with at least two congruent sides. Okay, so it's at least two congruent sides. So we've got parts of a triangle, which we're going to name here. These are the legs. So the congruent parts are the legs, and we are going to call this one the base on an isosceles triangle, which gives us base angles. Okay, so these are the legs right here, and these end up being the base angles in here. Okay, so now we have the first thing we're going to talk about, which is the isosceles triangle theorem. And the theorem says if two sides of a triangle are congruent, then the angles opposite of those sides are congruent. So if these sides right here are congruent, then the arrow goes down. So isosceles triangle theorem, the arrow goes down. The converse, the arrows go up. So that means the converse would be if the base angles are congruent, then the legs are congruent. So sides to angle is the isosceles triangle theorem. Angle to sides is the converse. Okay, so just think about it as you're kind of doing a dance. Point your hands down. That's isosceles triangle. Point your hands up in the air. That's the converse. So when your hands are up in the air, it's the converse. Okay. There's my little dance move for you. Maybe we'll do that in class. But here, some books will call it the base angles theorem. Most books call it the isosceles triangle theorem and the converse. Your book calls it the base angles and the converse of the base angles because your author likes to do that. But that's the isosceles triangle theorem. If the sides are congruent, the angles will be. The converse, if the angles are congruent, the sides will be. Okay, so let's see what else we have here. We have got a couple corollaries. The first corollary is an equilateral triangle is also equiangular. We knew that. And an equilateral triangle has three 60-degree angles. Remember, I told you corollaries are those things that just result, and it has to happen. And another corollary, the bisector or the vertex angle of an isosceles triangle is perpendicular to this base at its midpoint. This one's a biggie. Let's see if I can draw it out for you. Let me see if I have this, if I could do this shape that it will over here recognize. There we go. We've got our triangle. I shouldn't have chose the color yellow, but that's okay. So if I've got this isosceles triangle, and I drop down this altitude like this, what ends up happening, okay, the bisector, as long as it bisects here, which is this altitude that I'm dropping down, is going to be perpendicular, and it's going to bisect it. So this segment right here, this AB segment, will be congruent. So if this is an isosceles triangle and the bisector of the vertex angle, it will be perpendicular to this base, and it will be here at this midpoint. All right, so remember, this is the vertex. These are the legs. You can also call them the sides. And this is the base down here. And these are the base angles. Moving on. Take a look at this video on how to construct an equilateral triangle. I have a video for you on that. It's pretty simple on constructing an equilateral triangle, but you guys just got to do it. Just to give you a big quick summary of it, what you can do is you can get your line over here. Let's do it small. We want a huge one. And then you get your arc. You get your compass. And you're going to set the compass length. You're going to put the pivot point here, and you're going to set the compass length to go right here. Okay, and then you'll draw your arc. So I'll have an arc that goes this way. Then you just flip it to the other side. Put your pivot point here now, and then you'll do it like this on this side, make your arc, and then you just simply connect with a straight edge, connect with a straight edge, and you'll end up with an equilateral triangle. But check out that video. It walks you through it. Okay, over here, Let's do a few of these examples. We're going to do the student journal ones in class, but I want to do these additional examples with you. So on these ones, find the value of x. And we're going to state if we're using the converse or the isosceles triangle theorem. Since here I'm given the angle's congruent, and I'm going up, hands up in the air, this is the converse of the isosceles triangle theorem, but that tells me that 3x minus 2 will be equal to 16, so 3x equals 18, x will be 6. Next one. Let's see what we got here. We've got these sides being congruent. So this is the isosceles triangle theorem, because now these base angles will be congruent. Well, that's going to be 65. So I know 65 plus the 65 plus the x has to be 180. So this gives me 130 plus the x equals 180. So x will be 50. Okay. Over here, check this next one out. This is, again, the isosceles triangle theorem, because I've got the sides, and now I'm going to say the angles are congruent. So that's going to be an x right there as well. So I've got x plus the 3x. Okay, this all equals 180, so 5x equals 180. So x will be 180 divided by 5. So let's say that's going to be 36, right? Yeah, 36. Now taking a look at the next one. This is an isosceles triangle theorem again. Isosceles triangle theorem, because I have the sides and I'm going to the bases, so that's going to be an x. That's going to be 90 because this is perpendicular. So we've got x plus x has to be the other 90. So 2x equals 90. X is going to be 45. All right, moving on. Moving right along. Here we go. Let's take a look at this next one. Isosceles triangle theorem, that tells me these two are congruent. Isosceles triangle theorem tells me that these will be congruent because they're vertical angles, right? So those are congruent there. So if I find one, I might be able to find everything. Since these two angles right here are congruent, I know 180 minus the 70 gives me 110, right? And half of that will be 55 here, 55 there. So this angle in here will be 55. So that angle in there will be 55 because they're all congruent because of the isosceles triangle theorem. Now I can solve for this x. So this will be 110 plus the x is 180. So x will be 70. All right, you might want to pause that and play me again if you didn't get that, because I kind of went a little quick on that. All right, next, and this last one over here, this is the isosceles triangle theorem that tells me these two angles will be congruent, right? So this is isosceles triangle theorem when we go from the sides to the angles. If this is 62, that'll be 62. If this is x, that'll be x. So we're still solving for x, but did we even need to do all that? Well, let's find out. Over here, I know that this angle is the same as that angle, so x is 62. There you go, done deal. All right, that was pretty quick, not too bad. And those are the only examples I have for you that we're going to do here. The rest will be the warm-ups and what we do out of the student journal. So thanks for watching. Hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next video.